Hello there, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Behind the Curtain, Sterile Filling Readiness in the Drug Device Delivery Ecosystem. I'm Tim Wright, editor here at Contract Pharma, and I'll be serving as your moderator today. And today's event is being sponsored by Grand River Aseptic Manufacturing. They're a leading CDMO specializing in sterile injectable fill finish services. And we're joined today by three panelists. We have Mary Lou Glotzbach, Senior Manager of Drug Delivery Partnerships at Grand River Aseptic Manufacturing. And as I mentioned, they're a US-based CDMO providing sterile injectable fill finish services for vials, syringes, and cartridges. Andre Dunzik is Director of Sales and Marketing North America at Bausch & Strobel, a global technology leader in pharma packaging and filling systems. And Adrian Keller is Strategic Product Manager at SCAN, a world leader in isolator technology and clean room equipment for aseptic manufacturing. And over the next half hour or so, we're going to explore how sterile filling equipment drives drug delivery innovation and why collaboration between CDMOs and equipment vendors is critical for timely, compliant product delivery. We're going to cover where CDMOs fit in the drug device delivery ecosystem, what happens when a client asks a CDMO to fill the primary container in their chosen system, key considerations for pharma and biotech when selecting a device, how novel technologies and components are handled by vendors and CDMOs, how Annex 1 compliance is maintained amid shifting demands today, and finally, why syringe and cartridge filling investments give CDMOs a unique market edge. We'll close with some audience Q&A. So if you do have a question for the panel, feel free to type it into the box at any time during today's webcast. And before we get started, I'd also like to point you to the related content box on the right-hand side of your screen there, where you'll find a downloadable info sheet on aseptic manufacturing, courtesy of Grand River. So feel free to grab that at any time during today's talk. All right, so thank you three for joining me today. I appreciate your time. So let's get into it here. So to start, let's look at the big picture. CDMOs play a central role in bridging the gap between pharma and innovators and the equipment providers that make drug delivery possible. So Mary Lou, maybe you want to start and talk to us a little bit about where CDMOs fit into the drug device delivery ecosystem.
Sure. So, hello, everybody. I think right now is an extremely exciting time in our market. Almost every client call we're on or conference we attend, drug delivery devices come up. So if you think about the idea of a drug delivery device, really a subunit or a subsystem within that device is the primary container filled with a drug product. And so we, as a CDMO, hold a very critical role in the development process of bringing a drug product into a drug device delivery system. So one thing I want to, before we go any further, we were going back and forth in regards to how to talk about a client. And so we're going to use the word owner to define a pharmaceutical or biotech company that owns the drug product. So one thing that the CDMOs have found recently, and what I find a huge advantage over just a couple of years ago, is that an owner actually reaches out earlier in their development timeline to bring their CDMO into the discussion of development. And that is so important because as you start talking to a drug delivery manufacturer or someone who designs a device for you, they're going to ask you very important things about your drug product. And as you answer those, viscosity, et cetera, those are probably very significant characteristics to your CDMO as well. So as you're defining those back and forth between the owner and the drug delivery device manufacturer, your CDMO should be part of that discussion as well. Those specifications and those specifics about the drug product and how they interact with the device are critically important to a CDMO. And so please invite us to those discussions so that down the road, there's no delay to your timeline.
Do you have maybe an example of, say, where Graham's role as the CDMO directly influenced the success of a project?
Oh,
Is it a recent example?
Absolutely, right. And so if, for example, a owner moves forward with a drug delivery system or a drug delivery device manufacturer, and they have a very viscous product, a very viscous drug product, a device manufacturer might say, we can deliver up to 300, 400 centipoise, something extremely, I might be exaggerating there, but something that that device can deliver in terms of a viscous solution, but that viscous solution cannot be aseptically filled. Right. So that is something, if you bring us in earlier, then we can help you as the owner make sure that you're not moving forward with an assumption that your drug product can be filled and used just based on the fact that the device can deliver it does not mean that it can be aseptically filled.
Right. Okay, great. All right, so let's move now to the point where the sponsor or the owner brings the project forward. And so one of the first key steps is filling the primary container for their chosen system, which, like you mentioned, requires close alignment between the CDMO and the vendor. So Mary Lou, when a client does ask Graham to fill the primary container for their chosen delivery system, what happens next?
Well, the process is very similar. If an owner has been through this with a vial before, the process will be similar initially. So we need to get to know your drug product. So you start with the formulation. It's really sitting down and learning about the formulation and what it takes to formulate the product. And then with that ultimate goal of having it go into a device, we'll keep that in mind the whole time. So formulation will be first. Then the discussion moves to the primary container. Mm-hmm. So similar to a vial, right? You have a mechanism, your primary primary container for holding the drug product, and then your container closure system or your stopper, plunger stopper. So those we'll need to start discussing those next, and that will be critically important to the third piece, and that is filling that drug product into the primary container. And that is something where we appreciate being brought in earlier into the development cycle. But what we're finding is that we actually need to bring in our equipment vendors into those earlier discussions as well. Because if you can imagine this is kind of how things might happen, that we learn from you all the characteristics of your drug product. And then we work with our equipment vendor to discuss how we're going to fill that product. And then the equipment vendor comes back to us and defines how we're going to work with your drug product. And then we come back to you and talk to you about it. And so what we're finding now is that a more efficient process is to bring our equipment team in earlier so that we can effectively and more efficiently talk about how to take your drug product from the initial discussions all the way through a filled primary container that meets all the specifications needed for your drug delivery system. So, right. Andre, I don't know if you have more to add to that you'd like to discuss here, but I think one thing that we've found great in our partnership with Bosch and Strobel has been that they are there to help us resolve like a new primary container that might be needed for a new delivery system. Bosch and Strobel, if we bring them in early enough, then we can work through and make the process of filling that quicker with their help.
Yeah, so it would be a great time here for you to maybe jump in and talk about, from the equipment side, how you support CDMOs through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll continue on that topic. So first of all, hello, just a quick introduction. So we're the equipment vendor. SCAN and Bausch & Strobel together have a product for the handling of the components and the containment of this system. And we support Graham when the owners come to them and request changes to the system, which we've already installed. That's the main topic today that we really want to focus on. And as such, we can leverage a big database of historical information, having been in this business for a number of years. And in most cases, we can really reference back to that database. We can look at different installations, different solutions that we've done. And then it goes into a standard process where we really just work with Graham and provide different size parts. It's a project. We deliver the size parts and we install them in a pretty efficient manner. When we talk about these new or unique devices, we enter into a different system at Bausch & Strobel. A different group of people get involved, and we really bring in our specialists and our facilities to help with the evaluation of this new product. And that's I think a good initial introduction. And we'll get more into that as we go into the next topics, I think.
Okay, great. So let's move on then and shift into the owner's perspective. So, choosing the right delivery device is a critical decision, and that affects not just clinical success, but also, long-term manufacturability. So, Mary Lou, what would your advice be to pharma and biotech companies considering, when they're considering selecting a delivery device for their product?
I think one of the first things is the drug product characteristics. So knowing your drug product characteristics is going to be key in regards to how it's delivered. So for example, with viscosity, we've covered that before. If you have a viscous product, will it be able to be delivered using a specific drug product? And then keeping, of course, the manufacturer of that drug product in mind. The primary container is next. So you can have the drug product all understood. Then you have to know that device may have restrictions in regards to what primary container can be used with it. If you bring that then to the CDMO, does the CDMO have the capability of filling that primary container, or is there something unique about it where additional equipment might be needed, et cetera? And then when you think about the idea of combining the drug product and the primary container together, so the actual filling process, is there anything, so if you think about this, we fill into the primary container your drug product, and then we have to stopper it. There are different ways to do this, and there may be some sensitivities about your drug product that need to be considered. If we apply vacuum, is that going to be an issue? So that then brings up the discussion of equipment. And so I would say these are all things that you need to start thinking about when you're considering a device. So in regards to the drug product, will it work with the device? What is the primary container that is needed for that device, or is there flexibility within that? And then based on that device, where does the stopper need to sit within the primary container? What is the bubble size? et cetera. And so that then leads our discussion to our equipment vendor. And so you need to not only sit down with your CDMO, but you need to keep in mind how the filling process works and how the equipment vendor might be able to help us in making sure that we fill that primary container in the best, most effective manner, so to meet the specs for your device.
Right. And so, Andre, how do those owner decisions impact the equipment side? And maybe you can talk a little about some of the common challenges that are encountered, at this stage.
Yeah, this is where we work really closely with the different suppliers, the container suppliers, on a regular basis to keep in touch with them about trends. And those discussions often lead to us doing individual testing for them prior to their components coming to market even. And if we do that well, then we're well prepared for these scenarios. What we've learned through this whole process is that we've have the need to develop also an infrastructure at Bausch & Ströbel. And so we've developed something which we call pharma services. We at Bausch & Ströbel have a clean room lab. And basically it's a playground where we and the owners and Graham can work together and do a number of different tests. You will have access to the Bausch & Ströbel experts from the different areas of expertise. They'll assist us in developing a test plan, executing the test, and then also evaluating the results so that we can then make a plan going forward. This is a great time to also bring in the containment folks again, or the single-use suppliers, so that we have a full ecosystem, developed together, so that we can then upscale those parameters, those tools, onto the installed GMP system. And if you'll let me, this is kind of the place where I decided to talk a little bit about the behind the curtain stuff. So we had a specific project with Graham together, and we were actually developing, or Graham and the owner were developing a clinical supply project on an existing GMP machine. The timelines were very aggressive, and we had to really work through the challenges on the fly. And that really brought us together as a team, but we were also developing the devices at the same time as we were trying to do fills on the equipment. And that led to us having to, really put a team together, add resources, and it took some stubbornness from everybody to kind of stay on track. Managers got involved, leadership got involved, and we made a plan, and then the folks on the technical side implemented it. And this was really a big success in the end for everybody involved. And the result was we strengthened our relationship, and we strengthened our systems so they weren't stressed and prepared for when we have these scenarios come up. And so I think it was really a great way for adding this nimbleness, this flexibility that we always talk about, being so important in today's, dynamic environment, especially related to these new devices that are coming on board and the pressures of getting to market. So it was really a great process, and something that we can now build on and add better services from a Bausch & Ströbel perspective to our owners.
Great. Okay, thanks, Andre. All right, so let's move on to the next topic here. So, you've both mentioned innovation often brings new challenges in, pharma development, and many emerging delivery systems today involve components that maybe have never been run before, which puts added pressure on equipment design and process reliability. So, Andre, how do you ensure CDMOs can successfully run new or custom components in their system?
I think the most important thing is that we stay on top of this. We stay on top of the trends. We try to get ahead of it. So we have these, interest groups that we meet with, commonly, and then we really start working on developing the infrastructure or the solutions before market launch of the component. So instead of doing it the way, we did before, if you have time, you do it ahead of time before the market is launched. And what's really important about those resources I mentioned is that we can use that playground, as I called it, or the Bausch and Ströbel non-GMP environment to work out solutions off of the GMP equipment. So Graham has an interest to keep that equipment running in the clean room and keep their clientele, satisfied and meet their business needs. And so we've developed a whole process of solutions so we can do things offline. And this is also an area where we rely on our partner Scan. In the extreme case, when we have with the Variosa solution, which Graham also uses, we have the option to actually exchange complete equipment pieces. And for example, currently we have a new, what we call module or L-flange for 100% IPC processing of individual syringes and cartridges, which is applicable to this topic. And in the worst case, we can move a piece of equipment out and move a new piece of equipment in. Mm-hmm. And Adrian, then you can talk about the requalification process for a new module quickly.
Yeah, first I want to talk about...
Tim, if that's not in line.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andre. Yeah, so Adrian, you've been sitting there patiently, so perfect time for you to jump in here. So from an isolator and compliance standpoint, what challenges do you see and how do you address them?
Yeah, correct. So, of course, there are challenges from the owners to fill different kind of components, different kind of containers. But we never should forget about the quality. So quality is first. Yeah, if you do not deliver quality as a CMO or CDMO, you quickly lose your reputation. But then very quickly comes quantity, and I mean quantity in terms of various types of components, containers. So the CMOs require a certain flexibility, and a flexibility in terms of the equipment, and this equipment should handle a huge range of components. So as Andre already said, like 11, 12 years ago, Scan and Bausch & Ströbel, we developed together the Variouses. This Variouses provides this needed flexibility. We have a standardized isolator, which has a certain size. And we made the challenge pretty hard for Bausch & Ströbel to fit all their processes in this isolator, and that was really important because then we had the chance to make everything really modular and exchangeable. So, and Bausch & Ströbel made it possible to develop many modules, to satisfy the CMO's needs. And we as Scan, we provide the aseptic atmosphere for the process. And if you want to change these modules, you want to fill or produce another drug, which has another component, another container. These modules from Bausch & Ströbel can be easily retrofitted with a minimum changeover time.
Right. Can you maybe share an example? Is there an example of a novel component that maybe posed unusual challenges and how the team solved it?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the behind the curtain entry. That was really a new cartridge component, and the challenges weren't so much necessarily just related to the type of component. It wasn't extremely novel. It was that it was a fast process, right? It was the timing to get everything online. And that's something we really want to bring to the audience today too, is just preparing ahead of time that when you develop a component, it doesn't even have to be that novel, that the tolerances are really tight. And that's the next question, I think, and then that'll bring a little bit more light to this topic.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's move along then. But before we do, I did want to remind everybody out in the audience that you can type in a question at any time during today's talk, and we'll get to that. We have a two more topics we're going to cover here in the panel portion, and then we'll move into some Q&A. So if you do have a question, don't be shy. Go ahead and get it in there. So yeah, as Andre was alluding to that today, in today's pharma world, compliance is absolutely critical, especially with Annex 1. And as new technologies and delivery systems are adopted, staying compliant obviously becomes even more complex. So this is where equipment design and process control, I assume really, truly matter. So Adrian, maybe you can talk a little bit about how Annex 1 requirements influence equipment readiness and adaptability as industry needs change. Maybe both you and Andre can discuss that.
Yeah. So basically, the Annex 1 tells you that you must have a contamination control strategy. Yeah. And in this contamination control strategy, you basically strip your whole process apart. Yeah. And then you put it into tiny pieces. And one tiny piece is, the aseptic processing. And that's where we are located. And yeah, the isolator we are producing is just a tiny piece in this contamination control strategy. When we speak about variances, almost all components, and it's safe for these components to be filled in this isolator, and we have a really huge expertise with more than 70 variances worldwide so far, and it's still growing. And with every new project, the product grows, because every time customers have new challenges for us, which is good, and this product grows with every challenge. For example, as Andre already said, this new syringe and cartridge filler was a huge development, but there was a need from our clients, and we went that way. We made this investment, we took the challenge and developed something which is really good now. So I also want to talk about how do components get into the isolator, because this is maybe the most controversial discussed topic in the latest Annex 1. So variances can provide most of the technologies to get components into the isolator. So of course we have RTPs which can be connected. We have H2O2 airlocks. We have no touch transfer. We have dry heat tunnels, and even E-beam we can supply. Then of course, what else is important in the Annex 1? An isolator need to have a decontamination system, automatic decontamination system. And of course, as you know, an isolator works with H2O2, and at the end, the target is to reduce bioburden. And we can do this really quick in the variances, which is quite satisfying for everyone. Then we also want to talk about this challenge when what if a customer wants to change the process, wants to fill another component? Then it's always the discussion how to qualify it. And we found a quite easy way, which is quickly explained. For the isolator, it's a new process we consider as just another load. If you make a cycle development, you define the load of the isolator, and if we put in another L flange, another process module, then we just consider it as another load. And what we do is we check the cycle parameters we develop for the first load and transfer it on the other process module. And we check if it works. And if it works, it's good. We can use the same parameters. And if not, we can adapt these parameters and just develop another cycle receipt.
Right. Okay. All right.
And then
thanks.
what the Annex...
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay.
I thought you were I thought you finished that.
Yeah, yes. One more thing I want to mention. What is also very important for the Annex 1 is monitoring. Yeah, monitoring and recording of all the measured data. So we are talking about differential pressures. We're talking about temperatures, relative humidity, and then of course particles and variables are really important. Okay, now I'm done.
Great, thanks. Andre, did you want to add anything about Annex 1 and areas maybe CDMO struggle with most, how you address them, or did Adrian cover it there?
If Adrian did a great job. I think I would just add that we have kind of two scenarios related to Annex 1. We have the Annex 1, which pushes us to develop completely new systems, which we're doing. And we have the part of Annex 1, which challenges us to take existing installed systems and make sure that they're in line with compliance. For us and the fill system, that really is related to, as Adrian mentioned, the particle generation. So he's monitoring. We're trying to reduce the aseptic assembly from autoclave parts, how we do the assembly, and first air. And what we have is, again, this team of people that are working together with our clients for equipment from different ages, different periods, and we are going into the field and helping them upgrade and update it all to be up to the standards and do continuous life cycle improvements. And this is, again, where this pharma services system that we've established comes into play, where we have machines at Bausch & Strobel, we have testing rigs at Bausch & Strobel to test no-touch transfers, tub and lid and liner opening, all the different, filling systems that we have can be tested. And really that's how we built this support system for our clientele who have existing machines. So if anybody's interested, we can talk all day on Annex 1.
All right, great. Thanks, Andre. All right, so finally, let's talk about competitive edge for the last topic section here. So investments in syringe and cartridge filling lines have become a major differentiator for CDMOs, shaping how they meet sponsor owner demands. So maybe, Mary, you can talk a little bit about why CDMOs that invest in syringe and cartridge filling lines have unique edge, and we could get your takes as well, Andre and Adrian, if you'd like.
Yeah, I think the obvious aspect of this is that the new drug delivery systems rely on syringes and cartridges, right? And so there is a huge market trend toward getting patient care in the hands of the patient. And so if you're not manufacturing or filling syringes and cartridges, then there are some drug delivery systems that can work, or at least one that can work with a vial, but most do need a vial or a cartridge. And what we're finding is that the different types of devices need different primary containers, right? So this all brings us back to the flexibility piece as well. Smaller batch sizes, maybe, different types of viscosities, and different primary containers. So using a line like the Variosis offers us flexibility but still contained with a quality system in the SCON isolator. So if you're not investing right now in syringes and cartridges and the fill of those, then you most likely won't be able to compete or provide a solution for a client or an owner that would like to bring their drug product to a device.
Right.
So,
Okay, thanks. Adrian, Andre, either of you like to add anything or have something to say about investment in these new lines? And maybe looking ahead, do you see sponsored demand maybe shifting more towards syringes or cartridges, or will continue to be a balance of both?
Yeah, well, if I could answer that question, we'd make a lot of money. But no, it is trending in that direction. Tim is absolutely right. And I think Graham has done, obviously from my point of view, has done an absolutely excellent job sort of trying to anticipate the market and establish their footprint for what was needed at the time, what's needed today, and looking into the future. Wanted to mention, like Mary Lou said, it was really neat to be able to see that they could install a variosis system and then utilize it for the type of process that they needed. They had the option to do either or. They could have stuck with a vial system, but since the demand grew in a certain area, they were able to shift focus and utilize that dual use system for the syringe and cartridge application. And we've all learned a lot through this process. So I think we try as an industry to build flexibility as a design process, and that takes us really far, but it only takes us so far. What we learned together through this whole process, that it still matters who your partners are and how you work through things which you anticipated to a certain degree, but you still have to have that nimbleness as organizations to then be able to react and to establish new processes when necessary, so that you can really be first to market and be nimble and be fast to react to the market needs.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks, Andre. Anything from you, Adrian, or are we ready to move into Q&A?
So yeah, I have nothing more to say. I just want to highlight the partnership between CRAM, Bausch + Ströbel, and SCAN. It's always great with you to work together, receive new challenges. Yeah, it's motivating. It's motivating, and it's certainly not boring.
Great. All right, that's great to hear.
And I'd actually like to add to that. We appreciate the challenge that our clients bring us as well, right? So in this world of devices, a large volume primary container is a fun challenge, right? I guess it depends on who you ask, but we have been able and been blessed by the opportunity to work with clients that want to go beyond a 1 ml long syringe, right? And so it's nice to have partners that, like Bausch + Ströbel and SCAN, that have equipment that can allow us to take those challenges with our client to look at a new and novel large volume container, small volume container, whatever it might be, to help, again, deliver the drug product to the patient. So.
All right, great. All right, well, we've definitely covered a lot of ground over the past 40 minutes. So now it's time to hear from all of you out there in the audience. So if you do have a question, didn't get it in during the talk, now please go ahead and type it into the box there, and we'll get to as many as we can over the next few minutes. All right, I'm going to throw this one out there, and you three can fight over it. So what size syringes and cartridges are right now highest in demand? Well,
I can tell you where our demand is, or where our vision of the market is. Of course, there are the easy answers, right? So the 1 ml long that might be used for a biologic in an auto injector, or a 1 ml standard that's going to be used for a vaccine. And then the 2 1/4 syringe is actually gaining quite a bit of momentum and attention. So from a syringe standpoint, I would say that that's where the volume is, right? And then of course the 3 ml cartridge in auto injectors or in pens is really where a lot of attention is. But where we're seeing more momentum, maybe not as fast, is in these larger volume solutions. So a 5 ml cartridge that might be used in an auto injector. These biologics demand higher volume. So there is a little bit of momentum there, and we have filled all the way up through 20 ml cartridges to address the needs of clients in this new world. And Andre, your vision is probably much broader than mine. So I don't know if you have a different perspective on that.
No, not really. I've actually appreciated the exchange that you and I have had over the last year on that topic and what we've learned together. And I think the market is very reflective of actually where Graham is, which is testament to how the reach of Graham and how you're involved with these different topics. And I think you have it right. We have this core smaller fill volume, which is obviously the much larger business, but we're seeing a lot of action in these larger fill volume, higher viscosity device components as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks both. Let's see. This attendee asks, what other drug product characteristics beyond viscosity are pertinent for selecting an appropriate primary container device?
Oh boy. So, I mean, Andre, you're gonna come along with me, right, on this
Yeah,
one?
yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah. So, viscosity is critically important. Is the product a suspension? Is there something about the product that leaves it susceptible to different aspects of filling and stoppering? I think behind the curtain is kind of a cool way to represent the fact that really what like a Bosch and Strobel filling line does is not always appreciated by our client, the owner. And there are different aspects about filling and stopping that really need to be considered based upon the drug product. So there are those. There are, of course, the obvious ones, which is interaction with the glass or the polymer or the stopper. Those are always important to consider. But then also in working with the drug device, you need to think about bubble size, where the plunger needs to be placed, things like that. And again, all of that affects the CDMO filling the product. And it ties back to the equipment used and whether or not what your product needs to have in that primary container so it is successfully delivered by the device is important for all of us to be communicating and working together to resolve. So anything else about the drug product or the primary container that you want to bring up, Andre, that I missed?
Yeah, I mean, this is our area, right? This is a big topic, but just on a high level, does the product have a tendency to foam? Do you have long molecular strains? Is it cold filled? We have multi-dose systems now where you can choose which filling system you'd like to use. I think critical is the bubble size, the location of the plunger, the material of the plunger impacts how we insert the plunger. There's probably 6 different insertion methods that we can choose from. And I do oftentimes have this conversation with the owners that are in the initial steps. And I try to explain to them that the customization after we've delivered a standard piece of machinery, right, which in the future, in the best case, maybe it's like a Coca-Cola machine. You type in a recipe and it spits out something. You don't have to worry about what's happening in the background. But today, it's a really intensive process, sometimes just to focus in on especially if it's a small fill volume with a very low degree of fill tolerance variation. So if you need a really tight fill on a small fill volume, you have a lot of work to do on the back end oftentimes. And that's why we have the pharma services system. And at Bausch and Strobel, we almost always find a solution, but you have to plan some time and share with us as much as possible, do some fill testing in our lab to really dial in a piece of equipment based on your needs.
Right. Okay, thanks. So the next question here is related to Annex 1. So maybe Adrian, you want to jump in here. This attendee would like to know, per Annex 1, is it required to perform glove leak tests for closed positive isolator before and after use?
Yes. I can answer this with a clear yes.
Okay.
That's basically before the production, before the decontamination. That's the last step. What you do, yeah, you do the glove integrity test to check if during the setup of the line didn't happen any, yeah, any, if you don't have any pinholes in the glass. So we provide their wireless glove tester, what we have in our portfolio, which you basically can hang in the glove port. It inflates itself and then does it cycle. At the end, it spits out the report which says, yeah, it's airtight or not. And the same you do after production, just to confirm that yeah, everything was all right during the batch.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Moving along here, Mary Lou, this attendee would like to know if you're using single-use vessels for drug filling at Graham.
Yes, ideally.
Okay.
Yeah, we can use stainless steel. We do use stainless steel, but single use is our preferred approach.
Okay, great. We've got a few more here. This attendee asks, how much is it safety and use it? Actually, we'll move on. I can't make sense of this question. You guys can follow up with this person in the aftermath. Does your partnership limit or increase clients' choice in terms of CDMOs to work with?
No. We enjoy working together. We work great together, but I'm sure Bosch and Strobel and Scon have many other CDMOs that they support.
Okay, great. And next question about tariffs. Are you experiencing any impact from tariffs? Throw that across the board.
Yeah, I'll just address that. So Graham received its foreign trade zone designation to help with this. The FTC, or foreign trade zone, makes Graham a secure area under U.S. Customs and Border Protection supervision. And that allows a U.S.-based manufacturer to be free from tariffs on imported goods. So that's our approach to that, is to receive, we went after and received that designation.
Okay, great. Let's see, I think we got two more here before we wrap up today. What are the latest tools that help in addressing the challenges created by the dynamic landscape in the auto-injector device space today? You want that one, Andre?
Yeah, latest tools, I would say. I think a lot of the latest tools that we've been leaning on are the modeling. So 3D modeling, CFD modeling, offline to the machine. And that's been a big shift, a change, and it's been really productive. And when I think about it, we recently had a program with Graham where we have a vial line, and it was going to be upgraded to include a new nitrogen overlay system to get us below 1% nitrogen remaining in a specific vial. And our team was able to create a whole model offline on a computer to go through the whole scientific process, check the variables that were involved, and come up with a report that looked like we had done it on a real machine. And that allowed us then to create the specification for the upgrade on that piece of equipment. There's a whole range of applications for these new tools that are really coming along very nicely now. And yeah, digital twins and 3D CFD modeling, I think, is the newest and most effective tool that we've been leaning on. So yeah.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to take one more question before wrapping things up today. This attendee is asking if you see relatively less competition in the small batch sterile fill finish area compared to large scale commercial, and why you think that is the case.
Well, I can let you know our perspective, and that is that we actually do. So Graham, our expertise is in phase 2B and beyond, right? Our equipment is purchased so to support that business and those clients that fit within that range. But we do work with owners that need smaller batches for bringing their product into the later phases of clinicals or commercialization. And I think the reason that you find that maybe CDMOs don't want to get involved in that is purely, it's just an economic decision, right? And that is that it takes a lot of time to set up a line, and it takes time to tear down a line. And if you can move forward with larger batches, then it's most efficient, right? And so those larger batches, higher annual volumes, will allow you to produce more product. And from an economic standpoint, that results in a better opportunity. But it depends on how you define better. So Graham has stepped into a position where we actually are manufacturing smaller batches for our clients. And this gives us an opportunity to really provide a solution for some unique drug products. So hopefully that answered the question.
All right. Perfect. All right. Well, I think that's going to bring us to the end of today's session. So thank you again, Mary Lou, Andre, and Adrian, for taking the time to share your insights with us today. Thank you again to Grand River for sponsoring today's session. And for the audience, a reminder that today's session will be archived for 1 year on our site, contractpharma.com. You'll also be receiving an email from us shortly when the on-demand version of today's session is available. And I also believe within that on-demand version, there will be a PDF download of the slide deck for you to grab as well. And also remember, before logging off, to go ahead and grab that aseptic manufacturing info sheet that's in the related content box there on the right-hand side of your screen. So thanks again, panel members, and thanks again, everybody out there in the audience, for your attendance and participation today. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Tim. Bye.